morning. So I'm with David Gardiner this morning, whom I know David through the Shiji Guitar Players group originally. I think, and that's a mighty fine Shiji that he's holding in front of us there. Yeah, nicely modelled,
Absolutely.
David. Yeah, good choice of T-shirt with the black background with the colour of guitar as well. David, I watched some of his DG sessions, which I'm sure we'll get around to later on, and I was really impressed with David's playing and his technique, and actually even his style of teaching. He's a bit of a gearhead. It's a horrible expression, isn't it, David? Yeah.
Guilty as charged, though. I'm not going to argue with it. I think I think you've got a very good point there.
I'm sure we'll have a good discussion about gear. But David is also, for his sins, a gigging guitarist, so he's like the perfect sort of guy to do this with. When I first met him, I didn't think he was. I thought he was one of these home bedroom heroes, and then he told me he was doing some musical direction or something for a theatre.
Yes.
And the next thing,
I've done some musical theatre stuff in the past. Yeah, all that kind of. Well,
I think the last I heard of it, and I'm sure you'll give us an update. He was doing a Brian May gig, is it, in a Queen tribute?
Yes, Red Special just down there, sitting in the background. Yeah.
So I think I'll just open up my little thingy-majiggy here so that I can see it. So, David, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much. Yes. Excited to talk about guitar and gear and all that without the wife telling me to shut up.
Yeah, mine's banished upstairs. She's not had a lunch yet, so she's a bit hacked off. But you can't have everything, can you?
As well.
Yeah. So when did you start playing, David, and why did you start playing?
So I started playing at school. It was one of those sort of, you've got to do something in a music class, and I didn't want to play the keyboard. So I started thinking, right, I want to play the guitar. So I asked my parents and said, "Can I have a guitar? I want to learn to play the guitar." And this was for my birthday, and I've got a birthday in March. And I had a habit, as a lot of kids do, of saying, "I really want to do something," and then they get pestered their parents for it, and then parents give in, and they give up in like 2 weeks. Yeah, so that was sort of the worry that my parents had, and they said, "You know what? If you still want a guitar at Christmas, we'll get you one."
Right.
And Christmas rolled around, March all the way through to Christmas, and then Christmas rolled around, and I said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I said, "I told you in March." So yeah, I got a guitar. It was a little Esquire Strat Pack.
Right.
And yeah, my godfather at the time, my godfather, he plays the guitar. He's been sort of a gigging musician for years, and they sort of had a word with him and said, like, he wants to play the guitar. Is there anything you can show him? And yeah, he sort of took me under his wing a little bit, showed me a few sort of, all those kind of things, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just picked it up quickly and ran with it. Right. That was the beginnings of how I started playing. And then,
how old was you then, David?
So then I'd have been about 12, I think, 12, 13.
Right.
So it wasn't super young.
Yeah. Got a good age. Fingers had grown a little bit, and
well, I think at 12 years old, I must have been about 6'6" or something, because I've always been tall.
How tall are you?
And I've always had long fingers and that. So
yeah.
As a teacher, that's one thing that people do sort of ask me quite a lot. They say, "Well, you've got long fingers. Does that help?" And I go, "Well,
how tall are you, David?
Fingers.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'5.5".
Yeah.
I was measured at, for a hospital appointment recently and said, "Yeah, I've always thought I was 6'4", but no, apparently I'm 6'5.5".
Wow. Yeah. You need to take your shoes off next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started then. I mean, what did you join a school band or something, or what,
yes.
How did you start?
For about the first few years, I was very much a bedroom player. I didn't really like the idea
on the guitar, I might add.
Yes, on the guitar. Yeah, very important to point out at that age. Yes, on the guitar. I think I don't really like people seeing me when I'm learning stuff. I wanted to just sort of emerge as a guitarist and not have those sort of awkward.
Here I am. Yeah.
I didn't really want that stage to be public.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Funnily enough, neither did my parents. They weren't interested at all.
yes, I do. I do remember at the time when I was learning, my parents sort of saying to me, like, they said we had conversations at times like, "Can you hear that? That's not in tune." And but luckily it all worked its way
But
out.
you're young enough to have had benefited from actually having like an electronic guitar tuner and stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes, definitely.
because I'm a bit more advanced years than you, I had a set of pitch pipes,
Oh yes,
and I remember that I think it took me around 2 weeks to get the guitar in tune the first time. So, you know, I was following the dots on this like Home on the Range and stuff, and you know,
oh yes,
yeah,
yeah.
not good. So what was the first song that you learned to play then? What was
First
the
song,
motivation
I
to it?
started with riffs. It took me a while. I'd get bored partway through. I'd learn the bit that I wanted to do, and then move on and do the next one. I think the first song all the way through I did was "All Right Now" by Free.
All right, okay,
I think
yeah.
that was the first solo I learned. Probably a terrible approximation of the bending and the vibrato and all that in there, but at the time that was
I
the one that
think
I could
that
do.
was one of mine as well, to be honest with you.
And then years later, I learned I was playing it wrong, and and then I was always doing. So I was going back to the D, and years later, someone said, "No, it's a G in the middle there." Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So yeah, eventually got there, but yeah, I think the first one was "All Right Now," shortly followed by, I think it was "Smells Like Teen Spirit" for a school performance or something like that.
right.
So
Okay.
the usual classic stuff, and then as I got older, the music got heavier and heavier into the Metallica and the Pantera, and
So, what was your first band? Was that at school or was that after school or?
no, that was at school. I had a proper like a little school garage band type thing,
All right, cool.
um, where we sort of did. We started off with Metallica covers. Really, we were all sort of into the heavy metal thing,
Yeah,
and eventually started doing our own bits as well. And then that carried on until I left school for music college.
right.
And then once I got to music college, sort of the heavy metal mindset kind of got sort of beaten down a little bit. And you're just like, right, actually, listen to lots of styles and get good at a lot of things. And that's one of the key things to being
So,
a
where
geeky
did you go to
musician, I think.
music college at? Was it one of the famed school or Manchester School of Music, or was it a
It was
Northampton
the
thing?
it was the Academy of Contemporary Music in Guildford. I think they've got one in Birmingham now as well.
Right.
Yeah, I was at the one down in Guildford. I was learning with guys like Jamie Humphries, Pete Friesen, Dave Kilminster was teaching while I was there.
Yeah. And all the names I know from Guitarist magazine from.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, John Bishop as well. He does a lot with guitar techniques now, and yeah, all a very big influence on me and sort of
I
shaping
remember
me
buying
into
a Jamie Humphries. I think it was how to play some Van Halen stuff, which he did. But I think these days he makes quite a good living doing, funnily enough, the Queen stuff, doesn't he? I know he's played in We Will Rock You and stuff.
He's done stuff with Brian May himself, actually.
Right.
He's done he does the Queen. He's always a Van Halen fan at heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jamie ever sees this, but I don't think he'd argue that he's definitely a big Van Halen guy at heart. He's a Music Man player through and through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he actually made a custom Music Man, sort of echoing the Red Special. I think at one point I think I saw that on one
Right.
of the forum groups that he does. So
Mm.
yeah, Jamie Humphries is a great player, amazing
Yeah.
player, and
Yeah.
yeah, big influence on sort of shaping
Yeah.
me from this.
I remember buying one. I think they were called. I can't remember whether it was Starlix or Guitar or something. But they had DVDs out, and he was one of the chief instructors on it. And
Yeah,
I
Lit
remember
Library was one of the
buying.
ones that he did.
Yeah.
He's done a
Yeah, I
lot.
remember trying to learn the Beat It solo off it that he did and stuff.
I
And
did
I
exactly the
used to.
same thing. It's earned me a lot of money, that Beat It solo,
Yeah.
through function bands and all that.
Yeah.
I've done that
So,
one many times.
how long did you attend music college for then?
I was there. It was a 2 year course, but they did it in a year. So I did a higher diploma in a year. And I got to the end, and they said, "Well, they do a degree as well." And they said, "Did you want to carry on do the degree?" And I thought, to be quite honest, I'm not entirely sure on everything you've just told me in the diploma course. So I'm going to take some time and work out all that. And if
Yeah,
I feel like I need to know more, I'll come back for the degree. And I've not been back yet. So
yeah.
yeah, there's plenty of stuff that obviously as you learn things as you go along.
So
But
what was the
there's
objective, David? Well, I mean, why go to music college? Did you want to be a teacher, or did you want to be a professional musician, or did you just want to eat pizza, the all-you-can-eat pizza buffets, and live the student life?
well, the campus that I was on was actually directly attached to a Weatherspoons, so that was a
Right.
very important consideration.
Yeah.
But no, in terms of long term goals, I was never really that fussed on exactly what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to play the guitar,
Yeah.
and whether that meant teaching, whether that meant doing studio work, whether it was covers or live, or whatever it was. I was like, as long as I'm playing the guitar, I don't really mind. And I think that mindset, it's important if you want to be a professional gigging player. Like, you need to be prepared to say, right, okay, I'm going to treat this like a job.
Yeah.
Like, some of the gigs you're going to get, you're not going to enjoy. Some of the bits you're going to do, but it does give you the opportunity to do some of the things that you really want to do.
So did you get a chance to do like a band while you were at college and stuff with some of your other band,
Oh, it
college
was a
mates?
requirement. Yeah,
Yeah.
they trained us well. Every week we'd have a song. They give you the song on the Monday, and then the Friday they call up bands and you have to play them, and
Right.
they'll give you sort of feedback on how you performed and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we had we all set up bands for to be examined on, I guess, and to do the work. So
Yeah. Sounds like a great environment to learn in, and obviously, you're going to learn a lot of each other whilst you're doing it.
absolutely, yeah, definitely, it was an excellent place to be, and having Anderton's just down the road as well. That was dangerous for a student.
Yeah, yeah.
So we popped in there quite regularly.
Ah, so Andertons are out in Surrey, are they?
Guildford, yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah, it's same sort of town that the music college was in. So walking distance from the campus, it was
Ah,
a bit
well,
dangerous.
that's good. That's a good place for music shop. Just down the road from the place of learning for music. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. So where did you go from there then? What was the decision path, and what did you end up doing? Was it different, or did you achieve what you wanted to do?
I think the main focus I had while I was there was I just wanted to get better at guitar and get more professional.
Yeah.
When I went down there, I was this sort of long-haired metal guitar player, and when I came out, I was still long-haired, but a slightly broader musical palette. I was starting to get into country and funk, and just appreciating good music as opposed to just thinking this is what I like.
Yeah.
And so when I came out, I just thought, right, I want to start playing and start putting all this stuff into action. And there's this kind of thought that once you finish music college, that you're equipped with all this knowledge and this stuff that you know exactly where you're going to go, but it was not like that at all.
Yeah.
I finished, like, it was only a year course, but it was a lot of information. So I'm sort of coming out going, I still don't feel like I'm this professional guitar. I mean, I still don't. If I'm honest, I've been doing it for 15, 17 years or something. And just sort of this idea that you're still trying to break into an industry or something, and other people are looking at you going, well, you're in there, you're doing it. But
Yeah.
it's just about just sort of starting with something small. I just when I came out, I started teaching because
Yeah.
it was the easiest thing that I could do.
And you still teach now, right?
I do, yes, I still teach now. I do lessons online. I do certainly with COVID, the online lessons started to go,
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
yeah, a
Really.
lot more popular then. I was trying to do online lessons before COVID.
Yeah.
I had a relationship with a local music shop, and
Not in
I'd
the
put up
biblical
posts.
sense of trust, or
That's true. Um,
maybe.
But I was sort of their sort of one of their go-to guitar teachers, and I had some posters up just sort of saying like, anyone wants online lessons. I thought, what, there must be some people who are busy and don't really want to have to,
Yeah,
set aside time. So I thought, but no one, not one person. Then as soon as COVID hit,
really. Yeah,
floods of requests. Oh, can you do online? Can you do Zoom? Can you do Skype? I was like, I've been doing it for about
yeah.
a couple of
Where
years, but
were you
nobody's
when
been
I needed the
interested.
money a few years ago?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, so yeah, I was doing that, and then got into bands. The bands got slightly bigger, and
So what was this cover
opportunities
bands
come
you were
along as
doing?
they do.
No, because presumably your objective was to make money. So
Exactly.
original bands were probably out of the question at that point of view. Because I remember years ago, I used to be a pro guitar player, and the only reason that I actually managed to do that was we had a guy who was an ex-pro come to deliver some furniture to our house, and he said, "Look, he's seen the guitar." And he said, "Look, if you want to do it for a living, you've got to play in cover bands," because he said that's the easiest path to earn money.
It definitely is. I sort of see the cover band thing as. I mean, this is not to say anything about it. I've done cover band gigs where I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah,
Um, but there's definitely something about doing the original thing though. I've been in a couple of originals bands, and coming off stage after an originals gig feels completely different to coming
really.
off after a covers gig. Like
Wow.
there's just something when I come off after a cover. I don't get nervous about covers gigs. I don't. I come off stage and I'm like, that was all right. That was fine. But if I'm doing original stuff, there just feels like there's more pressure. Like it sort of means more in a way, just because
Really?
it's.
Yeah.
I
So
can't describe it. I don't know why that is to me. It's just something that.
so I mean, you live in the Northamptonshire area, right? So I lived in Peterborough for a while, and I know,
Just up the
like,
road, yeah.
yeah, the people in the Fens are a little bit different. So, in the few years I lived, I played professionally, and then I gave it up, and then started semi-professionally in Peterborough, and that was a big shock to me because we had to go out and play barn dances and things like that. Like you go to
Daily weddings,
Yaxley
all that
British
kind of thing.
Legion, and they'd want like a 15-minute barn dance type thing, and so being the arrogant prick that I was, I used to refuse to do it and sit down, and let the rest of the lads in the band get on with it.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their line in the sand, I guess,
I,
haven't
I,
they?
I'd get up then and do something like Hi-O Silver Lining. There's the or YMCA. But I'd draw the line at doing the birdie song for the barn dance or something.
See, I'd love that. I'd find that absolutely hilarious. I'd love to get up and do the birdie song and that kind of thing. I think I've probably snuck it into a guitar solo every now and then at some point, but
Yeah, I used to try and put little licks in, sort of thing, like wolf whistles and sort of like the odd Van Halen sort of thing
yep,
in the middle of it as a fill.
yes,
Yeah,
anything just to keep you sane, isn't it? During some of
yeah.
those gigs.
So I mean, was you just like in one band for a while, or or was you in multiple bands trying to gig as many nights a week, or?
So when I started doing the function band stuff, I started out in one main band, and we were doing sort of the started off on the pub circuit, and it just sort of developed from pubs into a few birthday parties, then a few weddings, and then some corporate stuff, and it just sort of grew. I was in that band for must be about 10 years actually.
Really?
Yeah, I moved away from that band literally the end of last year. So the last gig I did with them was New
Right,
Year's Eve this year, so 2023.
right.
That was a long time to be in one band with sort of
Yeah, with a lot
same
of
people.
bad personnel changes, was he? Or
It was it got to a point where I was the band had changed a lot throughout those years, and it got to a point where I was the wrong guitarist for the gig now.
right?
Um,
You weren't the band leader then? You were
no,
working for
no, I'd joined the band, and the singer, well, one of the singers, it was two singers. One of them was sort of the main band leader, and they decided to take over more of a role, which was fine by me. It was
Yeah.
sort of a little bit like, you'd say, right, turn up here, you play your gig, you get your money, and that's it. And that worked for a long time.
Yeah. Was it the
I
sort of
think,
band where you just sort of turned up in your car, set you get your gear up and left, or did you have to get there an hour early and help set the PA up, and or was that like somebody else's job?
no, that was the band leader and she was her and the bass player owned the PA, so they would get
Yeah.
there early. They would set the PA up, and then we'd all arrive later. But they took a bit extra money to do that,
Yeah.
and I think it kind of stops any arguments and stuff. Then, if it's sort of set in stone, it's like, right, we'll get here at this time. We'll set the PA up. We'll take more money. You get here at this time. You get this amount, and everything's sort of
Yeah.
laid out clearly. Then
I've done both. I remember we were all supposed to be on an even split, and I was doing a tour in Germany, and then we went to the agent's house, and I was listening a bit more intently than the rest of the band. And when the agent started talking about money, and he gave us like $3,000 for something, and then I said to the bass player after, he was quite an aggressive chap. I says, that doesn't work out, because I said, that's not what I'm getting for the gig if it's split like, 5 ways. And he went, oh, you're right. So he went and had a word with the drummer, who then revealed that he was taking his split, his wife was taking the singer's split, and then there was a band leader's split, which he also got. And at the time we were upset. Looking back, it was us that was unprofessional. It was, you know, um, I've been in a number of bands where I've provided a lot of the gear, like the PA system and everything. And my view on it has always been, if it breaks down, the band pay for it. But I've never took anything full out, wear and tear. I guess it works both ways. But these days, looking back, if somebody gets there, does that work, makes that investment, they deserve the money, I think.
I think so. It's clarity at the end of the day. Like
Yeah,
whatever way you want to do it is fine. Like if you want to have the band
as
do it,
long as
that's
it's
great.
known.
But yeah, just make it clear at the beginning and just say, and it just stops any arguments and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, the bass
Uh,
player give the drummer a thump for his
but
troubles. But
there you
he,
go.
we,
Because you're
but
not making it clear. It just feels
yeah, well,
shady
he
and
had a
underhanded.
reputation for that long before he actually used to go out with the girl singer from a band that I was in, and he'd given her a good thump a few times, so he had a bit of a reputation for it. But he was a demon bass player, so he always got work, usually Mecca cover bands and stuff. The Mecca circuit at that point was sort of thriving,
Mhm.
and his words to me were, "I can work all my life because I can read fly sheet off a wall." Uh, yeah,
You'll get a gig by being able to do that, but if you're hard to work with,
that's it.
the gigs don't
What
come
do you
back
think
around
makes a
very
good
often.
band member?
That's the difficulty I've found.
What makes a good band member to you then, David? If you were giving some advice to somebody to say, look, I want to be in a pro band, or I want to be in a solid semi-pro band. What advice would you give them?
Be easy to get along with.
Yeah,
A lot of being in a pro band and stuff is waiting. You get there at 5 o'clock. You're not on till 9:30.
yeah,
You've got
yeah.
to be hanging around with these people for a long time. And if you're difficult to get along with, or irritating, or you're a bit of a diva or something like that, people just don't
Or a
want you back
drunk,
again.
or a drunk.
Yeah,
The,
exactly.
the worst one was one of my best friends. I'll mention him, Tony. Hey, Tony. He we did a Freemasons gig, and we got there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because we were paid to get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And by the time, and then there was a Masonic singer on at 8 o'clock as the opening act before us, as the headliners. And by the time the Masonic singer come on stage, because it was free booze, he was plastered. So all the time the Masonic singer was on stage, he was heckling him, and by the time, and he continued to heckle him and get drunk in the hour before that we were on. So come the time that we were actually due on, he refused to go on stage. He just said that he'd had enough of all this crap and and he was sick. And he rung up his missus to tell her that he was quitting the band. And about halfway through our first set, because we were doing it as
That's not a good sign.
no,
That's not a good
his
sign.
missus gave him the bollocking of his life down the phone and sent him back out, and he just suddenly walked back out and played very, very badly for the remainder of the set. And so we sort of fired him, but because he was our best mate, we let him back in a few weeks later.
But that was a Freemasons gig.
He was a Freemasons gig, yeah.
I've done a couple of those. They're odd gigs. Not to sort of fuel any conspiracy theories, but they're some of the strangest gigs I've done.
Yeah, and
So
what always amazes me about those is the ladies all
kept...
come in looking very delicately, beautifully dressed, and sort of like go home looking rather bedraggled and sweaty. It's quite a difference between how people enter and how people exit the building.
Yes, but, definitely.
Yeah,
we did one. Went all the way down to Brighton. We got booked for a Freemasons gig, so we went down there, and we were sort of. There were certain sections of the. Well, we're thinking of it as a gig, but for them it's sort of like an event or whatever. Certain sections we're not allowed into the room while they're doing these things, and everything kept.
While they're doing the funny handshakes and stuff,
Sat there with our sandwiches, just going, "What's going on? I don't know about this."
Yeah.
But we did the gig, and it was.
I always used to hate because I think the other thing was I used to do a lot of gigs for the military, and at some of the officers' events you weren't allowed to be seen either. So you'd be backstage behind a curtain or in a corridor at the side where they would sort of like leave you. And the only time that you were allowed to be visible was like when you were actually on stage, and usually at the end after you'd done the gig, So it was. It's an experience that I'd recommend to anybody. But what I found about gigging, particularly with cover bands, which is most of my musical past, you have a good gig, you're incredibly elated. You have a bad gig or a bad guitar night where I don't know whether you probably don't get bad guitar nights.
Oh, absolutely, definitely.
And you just don't feel like anything that your improvisation is lousy. You just don't feel fluent. You feel you're playing in boxes and you can't get out of them. And you'll do something like drop the pick, and all of a sudden you'll get an adrenaline rush that'll make you do something different, and you think, oh, that's not so bad, But I remember getting some bad nights, and and getting a good night when you get 4 encores or something, is a buzz entirely. But
as long as you've got 4 planned, if you're on a dep gig and you've only got the set planned, and people say 1 more song, and you go, we don't know any more songs.
The first pro band I was in, I had my audition on the phone. I had to sing down the phone to the guy, and I met him at his house. We did a Babe by Sticks from memory. I had to sing down the phone because he wanted a guitar. He said, "Look, everyone can play." He said, "But can you sing?" So I sung Babe by Sticks. I met him up at his house, and then we set off on in an ambulance, which was the band van, off to from France through to Belgium and Germany, and we did like 6 months out there before he buggered off with all the gear.
Oh. An ambulance is going through red lights.
Gear-wise, you must have had a lot then, David. Let's change away from the band thing for it. Unless you've got any really funny stories to tell from a gig.
I've still got a lot of gear. I've got all sorts of gear. What shall I start with? What's the?
Well, give us a history. You.
We'll be here for
hours
on a history of my gear.
What did you start with when you were gigging?
So started when I was gigging. So when I started the function band, I was using a Mezza Boogie Do you remember the stiletto?
Stiletto, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yes. So it was sort of a EL style, a British style boogie, I think was the way they did it. It was good similar to the Lone Star, I guess.
I could never tell them apart, to be honest with you. I'm guessing one was 6L6 and the other one was EL34s or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was what I was starting with. I had that into a 2x12 and just a little pedal board, nothing crazy. Pedals chop and change all the time, but
Yeah.
so that was what I started with, and then went from that to Axe Effects was the first. That was the first big change that I made, and that was to try and help
So
balance.
that's a hell of a lot of expensive gear on both accounts for a guy just doing his first function band.
Well, this was after I'd done the music college thing, so I'd
Yeah.
been teaching a bit, and I thought, if I want to do this, I'm going to try and do it properly.
Yeah.
And I sold the Mezza and bought the Axe Effects. So
was that an Axe Effects or an Effects of 2 by that point?
two.
Or?
It was a two at that point.
Yeah, I had one of them. Yeah.
And yeah, that was to try and help balance the stage volume, because when you're using an amp and miking it up on stage, you get the issue that if you turn the amp up too much, you start getting feedback in the monitors and all that kind of thing. So just to make the job easier for the people doing sound, I went to the Axe Effects with the idea of giving them a DI out and then setting my own volume on stage without it affecting the front of house. And that worked well for a while.
So did you have your own sort of like monitor thing, or did you go through like the band's PA and just have a bit of mixing there?
So at that time I had the Axe Effects into, so that was going straight front of house, but I had a second output going to a monitor. So one of the outputs went front of house, or stereo I think it was at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had a separate output going to a monitor, which was just guitar on stage.
Right.
I had one guitar, one wedge, which was just guitar. No, nothing else in the mix.
Yeah. I was working in Saudi Arabia at the time with more cash than I knew what to do with, so I had two QSC Q10s as me fallback for me monitor, going out to the main PA, which was a big QSC power thing, but it was just too much. It sounded fantastic, but yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that moved me on from the Axe Effects. I was just sort of sat there with it, going, "This is more than I need, more than I'm finding useful." So I moved on from the Axe Effects to, what was the next one? No. Oh, I might have gone Kemper next.
Ah, okay.
I've done all of them. I've done Axe Effects, I've done Kemper, I've done Helix, and I've chopped and changed. And inevitably, as this is a guitar thing, somebody's going to say, which one was the best?
Yeah.
And
you beat me to it, yeah.
The answer is they are all absolutely perfectly fine. If somebody is saying one is noticeably better than the other one, then there's nothing in it really tone wise. For me, anyway.
It's all about how good you are at programming. My reason for getting rid of me Axe Effects, and I told Mark that the week he was there, artist in residence, like he was responsible for all their sounds. It was just too much for me to handle with all the technology and stuff, and it was the fact I used to have to take a laptop on stage with me because to control it all, because I couldn't get to grips with all the menus and everything. And I know people were doing racks at the time that you could, basically turn it into an amp by doing it, but I didn't have access to that being out in Saudi. So for me, it was just very, very difficult, and I resented having to get a laptop out just to try and change some of the basic things that I would just twiddle a knob on an amp for the night, on the global settings.
No, that is a big thing with the modeling thing. Being able to adjust it like you would an amp.
I'm still pining for the Helix, to be honest. Yeah, I'm still pining for the Helix. Mark could slay me for saying that, because I think he'd say get an FM9 or something. But
I'm currently on a Helix. That's what I'm using for the Brian May stuff.
Right.
But I'm looking at moving back to a Kemper. The only reason being is it's just the features that you have in each one. So the reason I went to Helix from Quad Cortex. The only reason I did it was because I needed.
I remember you buying the Quad Cortex thing, because you were talking to me online about it.
Yes,
Yeah,
great. It's a great little modeler.
yeah.
And I think
That's the most expensive as well, isn't it? The quad cortex,
the Axe FX is pricier.
is it?
I think, yeah, for the current versions, yeah.
Right.
The Axe FX 3 is,
Yeah, maybe through G66 or something. Yeah,
yeah, they're quite expensive.
yeah,
But yeah, I was using the quad cortex, but I did it was a musical theatre gig that I had where I needed to do some volume swells and I had some wah stuff, and I was like, I could buy an expression pedal for the quad cortex, which would
yeah,
set me back about 150 quid, or I could sell the quad cortex, buy a helix, and then if I want to go back to the quad cortex, I can do it the other way around, and I've not lost any money.
yeah.
So I just switched to the helix for a while, and I'm still on it at the moment.
Mm. I'd love a Helix. I'd probably go for an LT these days, to be honest with you. But at the moment, I'm back on a pedal board.
Okay, what are you using?
Oh God, nothing exciting because I made it. I was a Joyo dealer when I lived in China, and so I began to appreciate that if you've got a good basic sound, the rest of it is just embellishment. And I do a lot of jam nights and stuff now. So the most important thing on the board for me is actually the power supply, and I've got the Joyo rechargeable power supply. So
Okay.
I don't need to walk around looking for a mains plug like I seem to have spent most of my career doing. Looking for power, walking around with a plug, going, "Somebody help me." So it's all charged up, and I run about 10 effects pedals off that, and I've got I've got a couple of Digitech hardwired delays because I'm a Steve Lukather nut. And
Delays.
I happen to
Really
know
good
the
delays.
settings that Mr. Lukather used or still uses on his stuff by virtue of a couple of friends. And also, I think I've got one of the Demon effects, the OD Demon effects are the guys
Yeah, yeah.
China that copy like very, very closely, or at least physically in the boxes. But their ODX, which is a copy of the Friedman, is an excellent distortion unit.
I have a Lyrock right
Oh,
here.
you've got one.
I've got
Yeah,
oh,
the
it's a Lyrock.
analog man one.
Similar kind of thing to Demon, but I've got the King of Tone sort
Is
of
it good?
clone thing, which is yeah, same sort of thing. And honestly, they sound amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
They
My
sound so
my
good.
I've got the double channel one, and it replaced a Mesa Boogie, a proper Mesa Boogie one that I had.
Mhm.
I can't remember which one it was. It was the one that produces the heaviest sound, and it was just too much. Throttle
Throttle
box
box,
EQ.
yes.
It was a throttle box EQ. So I've replaced it with the Demon FX, and to be honest, the Demon FX is better for what I do. It's a little
Mhm.
bit more subtle, but I'd argue it's a better sound as well than the Boogie one. And it
Yep,
cost me like 80 quid off Made in China or something. It's
bargain.
crazy. Yeah. So I've got that and power supplies. I also love the Joyo analog chorus, which is
That
one
based
of
on a
their.
box.
It's a little blue box, and I thought I was probably the only lover of it. And my all-time guitar hero was John Miles, and John Miles Jr. is out in a cover band these days, and
Okay.
I had to laugh because he's got I mean, he's an awesome player, same as his dad. And he's using one of them as well because it's the closest thing to a Boss CE2,
Hmm.
you know. So yeah, there's a few things on there. I do like a good compressor, so I use an Ego compressor. I think that for
Ego.
me that's the best compressor I've ever used. So
I've got a compressor on mine as well. I'm using the Jackson Audio Bloom,
right,
which there's a good reason I like that one. I like that you get when you're playing, you've got a flashing light that shows you when the compressor's kicking in and
yeah,
how much it's kicking in.
yeah,
So it's really easy to visually set your threshold and your compression amount. So if you want to make sure that you're not compressing too much, you can just sort of keep going. No, too much. Dial it back. No, and then just so it's just sort of taking the top and bottom and helping a bit. Plus, you've got a built-in EQ and a boost in there as well, so it's sort of three pedals that
I tell you
always
what,
seem boring on your board, but you've got
yeah.
them in one, and you need them all.
I've got a Moore yellow comp as well, actually,
Okay.
which is like my always on pedal.
Hmm.
And I was just going to get, like I had the Wampler, and I was actually on Twitter or X, whatever it's called these days, and had mentioned it on there. And Brian Wampler come back on, and because I said I was just going to get rid of the Moore, and he says, "Don't do it." He said, "It's a fantastic pedal." This is Brian Wampler, I was going to get another
Yeah.
ego, and he says, "Don't do it." He said they're both really, really good at what they do. He says, but so for what you're doing with it, the Moore Yellow, which is like 35 quid or something compressor, he said he's fantastic. He said it's a brilliant pedal. You don't get much. I do find that people like Brian Wampler and Josh from JHS are
Yeah.
incredibly complimentary about other brands. There's no edge
Yeah,
on
they are.
that pedal builders community. It's
Definitely.
something else. There doesn't seem to be much fighting and skullduggery on the service. I think they're all in it together, and they recommend it. Josh even likes some of the Behringer stuff, and I still can't get over that. Having tried a couple of them out, I think I struggle to get one decent sound out of each pedal.
I
And
think one of the fuzzes
they've
from
got a
Behringer is
teaching
supposed to
box on
be
them.
a bit of a hidden gem.
Which one
I think one of the fuzzes is supposed to be.
is it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be really nice.
Yeah.
I'm
I
looking
know
around
they're like
here at the moment.
$50 or something in the States, which is crazy. But yeah. So how's the guitar stuff going then? Because I think that you've had a bit of a change around recently. When
I
I
have.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something that I do fairly regularly. Um, so
I know I've been talking online to a guy that bought one of your Shijis actually.
yes, yes,
That
yes. So I've sold two of the Shijis. One was a HSS STE,
STE, yeah,
um, and the other was the TM5, which I think
yeah.
there's a video that I've done with the TM5 before it went. And yeah, I've not got rid of them because I don't like them.
Yeah.
I've got nothing against them at all, but they're just not what I need at the moment. So if I'm not using something, I try and get rid of it and get something that I am going to use at the moment. Because unless
Well,
it's something,
as a professional player, they're all tools to you as opposed to objects of desire, aren't they? So I guess that makes a
mostly,
lot of sense.
mostly, I've got a couple of things that I just sort of get quite a little bit attached to,
Right.
and just can't quite bring myself. I've got a
I had a Sir guitar like that, so the obvious thing to do was to sell it
I've got this
after
one. Which is,
17 years of heartbreak.
I've got it's a Schecter Nick Johnston
Uh-huh.
diamond, but it's signed by Nick on the back,
Okay.
and
So
he
that's
played
the
it at one of
secret
his
sauce, is it?
clinics. Um,
I do believe they're very good. If John's Too Loud on YouTube, John Coe, he's he reviewed it with the Shiji, and I think he preferred the Shiji over that, but there wasn't much in it.
it depends what you want it for. There's not a lot quality-wise. Shiji, there's not a lot that you can fault them on anyway. Like
Yeah.
they'll stand up against any instrument. The difference with this, I think, the Shiji is definitely more of a traditional design.
Yeah.
So it feels like a high-end Strat, basically.
Yeah. You had the Pro series one, right?
Yes.
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 A relic one from memory, was it?
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was. It was a relic.
With the eggshell finish, yeah.
No, it was not the eggshell finish. My telly, the TLV. This
Right.
one's eggshell,
Okay.
but the other one, the STE was. Is it poly or is it nitro? It's poly, I think. They've only just started doing
Yeah,
nitro.
well, yeah, we've only been. I keep saying we now because I guess I'm part of
It
it.
is.
Yeah.
It is for you. It is. It's a Wii now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. They've only been doing the poly for this year, and I think it was an expensive undertaking because it takes them a long time to do them, and that's all about the drying time. And certainly, I think that there was a lot of learning to do when they first started it. But I've seen a couple that have come through, and they are fantastic now.
I
And
wouldn't expect anything less. They
yeah,
put everything into all of it.
Alex is an absolute perfectionist, to be honest with you, the owner, and he says to me, the Nitros are the best sounding guitars we do,
Hmm.
of that type. And who am I? Who am I to argue with him? You
They're
know,
incredible instruments, but the
yeah,
difference with this one is it doesn't feel like a Strat. Like it looks like one. It looks a lot like one.
yeah.
But when you pick it up and play it, the radius and stuff, I think it's got like a 14-inch radius or something like that.
So that's even flatter than the Shijis, which are a 12. Yeah,
It is, but it's a lot. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you play it, it feels a lot more kind of modern and much more encouraging of tasteless guitar playing.
so what I can say, and it's not in defense of Shiji, and it's not a sales pitch either, but the new ones that we do now are still the same 12 radius,
Hmm.
but they've got carbon fiber rods in the neck, and
Oh,
they
okay.
are so straight. They feel like a 16 almost. It's reverse engineering, because before you always had the double truss rod in the neck to keep the neck straight.
Hmm.
Now it's absolutely it's so straight. So Max, me tech guy that's now the Shiji approved sort of like guitar center.
Repairer type guy, yeah.
Yeah, he puts because it was important to me that we actually had after sales, particularly with it being like a foreign brand and stuff. Yeah,
Hmm.
um, the he sets them if they go to him with some relief coming from the truss rod, because the nets are dead straight, so it's kind of reversed engineered, because the truss rod isn't there to keep the neck straight anymore. It's
Hmm.
there to put bend in the neck for the relief. So yeah, but it does make the 12s feel even flatter. To be honest with you, it's really strange.
That reminds me a lot of Vigier.
Yeah, yeah,
Have
they
you
were
ever
the
played
first
Vigier
guys to do
stuff?
it. Viger, I call them, probably wrongly.
It's French. It's a French guy, Patrice
Yes,
Vigier. Yes.
Tina S. Is their biggest sort of endorsee, the young French lady that does all the amazing covers
Yeah, you
and
got Ron Thal as well, Bumblefoot. He's
yeah.
a
Oh,
Vigier
does he? Does
player.
he play one as well? Does he?
Yeah, he's a Vigier guy.
Right.
Um, but yeah, they don't have truss rod adjustment.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought they've just got the carbon fiber in there, and I've had a couple over the years,
They've
and
been doing it about 12 years, haven't they? The carbon fiber Viger.
yeah, a long time.
Yeah,
And honestly, I can't argue with it. Like the ones
yeah,
that I've had, the necks have been rock solid.
yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a video
Even
where
the classic range have actually got the carbon fiber rods in now, and
really.
actually even the TM4 and the TM5 have got it as well, because it makes that much of a difference. Alex just thinks it's a bit like the garlic bread. It's the future. I've tasted it, sort of thing.
It's brilliant. But yes, so yeah, those have gone with the idea that if I want a TM5 again, I would look at getting one in that flip flop finish.
Oh, okay.
I think
You
they
mean
did.
the purple fade or the blue fade?
They did another one in like a chameleon color
Oh yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I might have to have a word, and when I'm looking at getting one again, might see if I can get hold of one of those at some point. But for now, because I left that band at the end of that last year, and that was
Yeah.
kind of one of the main
That was kind of
reasons.
where you and I came in, because I think that the distributor they had previously didn't, although I love him a bit, Greg wasn't being very helpful, which you can understand because of the communication issues.
Yeah,
To be honest, so you and I were talking about what was available, because I think you had some very exotic taste going on at the time in terms of like the woods that you wanted and what was
oh
possible.
yeah, I was looking at getting a custom one done.
Yeah.
I would have loved that. I've still got that sort of image in the back of my mind of the guitar that I would have wanted. Um, but yeah, it wasn't. It was all stuff that they'd done before. I think what I
Yeah.
was after was sort of a black body with a Wenge neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So like lots of sort of blackness and dark kind of color, but
So Alex does all that sort of stuff by himself. Actually, I think that in the main, he's like the master builder, and he's the owner of the business.
Mhm.
So he's got a range at the moment of the JT series and the Pegasus,
they look
which
incredible.
yeah,
They look
and
really
he's
nice.
got some a lot of purfling and exotic woods on a lot of those and stuff. So
I do wish they had the more traditional looking headstocks though. I'm not a massive fan of the big pointy one.
yeah, it is a bit
It suits
Ivan as
some, but
Destroyer, but I think some of that is the influence of JT, the guy that used to be the president of Gibson, who's I think they're quite close business wise,
mhm.
and certainly he's had some input into direction and what have
Okay.
you. But yeah, I agree with you. For me, if it had a more traditional headstock, I think it would be. I wouldn't say an easier pill to swallow, but it would be an easier pill to swallow for the traditionalists.
Yeah, don't want to say that, but I'm going to have to say that
Yeah.
because, yeah,
So
uh,
why have you kept the Telly and not the TM5? Because the TM5 people absolutely love it. I've got a spec of STE you can't buy anymore because they
you
won't go
have
backwards.
yes,
Yeah.
you got the dark roast, didn't you?
I've got the very, very dark roasted maple neck, which everyone thinks is a rosewood, one piece
Yeah,
rosewood neck. It's a one piece neck. And although we advertise on the website, we do the one piece. It's only where we've got any existing stock hanging around because Alex seems to be totally committed to the carbon thing now. And can I be really honest? And we'll have to come off the Shiji in a moment. But
yeah,
I'm actually jealous of the new necks that are on it, in spite of the fact that mine would be incredibly sought after now. That a one piece dark roasted maple
yeah, of
neck with,
course.
with the flame maple skunk stripe. The new necks actually play better, and I never thought I would say that, but but
It's
but they do, and that's not the salesman in me. That's the envy.
form over function, isn't it? It depends which one you want.
Yeah. So why did you keep the TLV? I know that you're very much a functional guy, but I know you've done
Um,
one country video, and we'll come to your channel in a
I
minute. But
like country. I'm a big country fan. It's just a personal thing. I'm not in a country band. I don't play a lot of country like live or anything, but I really like it's a personal sort of preference thing.
right,
Like I couldn't I need a telly. I
yeah,
need to have is there something this is what I was saying earlier about how I try guitars are tools, but there are some where I just go no, I need to
yeah.
have one of those. I feel like I'm missing something if I don't have a telly in the lineup.
The TLV was the second Telecaster I ever had, and I've grown to love it. I think that Telecasters are hugely underrated. My perfect guitar is now an HSH Telecaster,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, I think an HSH Telecaster with the right sort of like colorings and what have you for me would be my ultimate guitar rather than an HSH Strat, which is
Mhm.
basically what I had with the Sir Standard for a long time.
Well,
Maybe I'll get
this
Alex
was
to do me one day.
this was my first Shiji, and before this, I had a Sir Classic T Pro.
Right.
Um,
Which
and
are
I
again object of desire, yeah.
and yeah, it's a lovely guitar. And I thought, you know what? The reason I bought the Sir was because I went to Guitar, tried
Yeah.
out what tellies I could find, and I thought, right, what one's the best?
Yeah.
And it was a Sir, so I bought a Sir.
Yeah.
and and I saw this one. I've been meaning to try one of these for a while, and one came up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy it. If I like it, great. If I don't like it, I'll sell it on, and I've
Still
put a
got
tick in
it.
the box.
Yeah.
But I tried it and just thought, you know what? I'm like, I don't think there's anything here that. Why am I needing the Sir?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I would happily pick this up or the Sir. There's nothing between them. And the Sir is nearly £2,000. This set me back about.
I think you find that a Sir Pro T would be more than £2,000 now. It's more
Well, I
like
got it
2.8.
used at the
Yeah.
time, so it wasn't
Yeah.
too bad. But
I've seen them now between 2.8 and 3.2. And if you want the Andy Wood one, then you're looking a bit
I'd
more
love the
than
Andy
that.
Wood one. Again,
Sorry?
flat radius. I love those flat radiuses.
Yeah, yeah. Andy Wood's actually my favourite guitarist. So
He's incredible. Again, country player though.
yeah, yeah.
See, that's one of the reasons I really love country. It's
Learn it
you've
on the
got
banjo.
incredible players. It's metal but clean. That's what
Yeah,
country is when you get really good players.
yeah,
So yeah, that's why I've kept this one and not the TM5 and the STE, because I'm thinking I can replace them later on, and it doesn't bother me to not have them at the moment.
yeah.
I've got a rock guitar kicking around. I've got an EVH Wolfgang that I've had for years, which will do the rock thing if I need a rock thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the gigs at the moment, I've got to use the.
Have you actually started gigging with the Queen tribute now?
Yes. Yeah. That's up in.
Then? What are you called?
Sorry.
What's the tribute called?
It's Eternal Star of Queen.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the catchiest of. They're a bit of a
Yeah.
mouthful. But the whole gig started with a husband and wife who came over from the Ukraine.
Right. Okay.
So they came over, and they're obviously professional musicians over there, but they've come over here, and they thought, you know what, we want to start doing some music here. We thought we'll do a Queen tribute, and yeah, so we've got Lars and Daria, so Lars is the singer, Daria is on keys, and yeah, they put an ad out looking for Queen players, and I thought, you know what, I could do Brian May.
Yeah.
I could do the Brian. I like Queen. I can play some Brian May.
Everybody likes Queen. Everyone likes Brian May. I was going to ask you, have you got? Do you do the wigs and the clogs?
No. The bass player is strongly against it.
Right.
I say I will do it if the money's right. That's my stance on the matter. At the moment, I'm saying no, I won't do the wigs, but
Right.
wave the right amount of
I
cash
think
into
you
my
should.
nose.
Not that you haven't got a great head of hair, but
Thank
I
you.
think you should.
I put more effort into getting the guitar thing down first. But yeah, with the
say, if I want to go and see a Queen tribute, I want to go and see a band that looks like Queen. You know,
I kind of think that as well.
That
You expect the cat suit,
there's
you
the
expect the
anti-school of thought.
microphone.
But even my friend, after doing years and years in the pubs, I think we'll be doing an interview sometime next week, and doing lots of Oasis stuff. They've just put like something together called I Am Gallagher, and you know, their prices rocketed from being a pub covers band. All of a sudden, they're doing like festivals and stuff, exactly the same stuff, just concentrating more on that.
Yeah.
And he's gone out and you know, and he does the dark glasses and the trench coat sort of thing.
You know what? It makes such a difference. Like the difference between a pub cover band and a tribute act.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get gigs as a tribute act.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I had a band
But
practice.
you're preaching to the converted, otherwise you wouldn't go.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I was talking with I've got a pub cover band type thing as well, and we're just saying how much harder it is to get gigs now. Like 5 years ago, you go to a pub and most of them you just say, "We're in a band. Do you want to have us on?" They go, "Yeah, all right then."
Yeah.
This is what we pay. But now it's a battle to even get a response from a lot of places.
Your part, when I was doing the pub circuit, your part of the world played. I mean, I'm going back like to, oh my goodness, even in the 90s, we were getting 100 quid for a pub gig, and like when I moved to Peterborough, all of a sudden we were getting 300, and I thought that was the price of the Birdie song, but yeah, it all seemed to pay quite well down there, and some great musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, when you consider how agricultural sort of like the Northamptonshire area is. Or that's my view of it. I've, you know, lived in Peterborough and sort of been there. There are a lot of great musicians that live in that area. It's funny actually because I've just agreed to do the Coventry Guitar Show a week, and I've signed up for the Northampton one as well. And he said to me that the Northampton one's probably the second best attended in the country.
Big, yeah. Well, you've got. It's Midlands.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in the country, it's kind of easier to get to. Like if it's down south, the guys in the north don't want to do it. If it's in the north, the guys in the south don't want to do it. But Midlands,
Yeah.
It all kind of works.
Mhm.
Northampton as well, because that's where you've got Black Star based in Northampton as well, haven't you?
You have, yeah, yeah. I like Black Star gear. I went through a phase where I bought quite a lot of it, and then I went over to some Hughes and Kettner stuff. But now I'm
Yeah.
just doing the jam nights and stuff. You know what I'm using at the moment for an amp? I'm using a Joyo Bantamp for the Marshall one.
Bantam.
Yeah, it's fantastic, honestly. For a basic JCM 800 sound coming out of a 150 quid box, it sounds phenomenal.
They
You
are
know, you've got
incredible.
to put it through a V30. You know,
You could do the good speaker, yeah.
that seems to be the secret sauce with
Mhm.
it for sure. But it's really good, and because I just use it as a pedal platform for the other stuff. And there's not a sound I can't really get out of it. I've got an Eventide as well, which I forgot to mention before,
Mm.
which does all the sort of like all the more complicated stuff. But yeah. So
We
what are
haven't
you
really done
taking
amps, have
along
we? I've not
now?
really talked about them. I
You've
said
got an
about the
Eventide, have you?
Boogie, but not what I've currently got, have I?
Yeah. So what are you doing now with the gear? What
So with
are
the
you
gear, so with
using? And
The Brian May thing is Helix.
yeah,
I just got some Queen presets and job done.
yeah,
That's it. Plug that into PA. But amp wise, I've got a DV Mark Evo 1,
right,
which is my sort of grab and go for rehearsals and little pub gigs.
yeah,
It's 2 channels, it's solid state, it's got a DI out and a built-in reverb and boost.
yeah.
So
What else do you want?
nice. It sounds fine.
Yeah,
It's not something that makes me go, "Oh, that's a good noise," but it does the job well. I've got a Jet City Amelia. Now, whenever I say Jet City, everyone always thinks Soldano,
yeah,
but the Amelia is. Got to choose my phrasing carefully here. Um, I don't think it's an exact copy, but I think it's based on a Martin Kidd design,
right.
or at least
Cornford then.
related to it. Yeah, Cornford Victory, so more British in sort of sound. Which it's a lovely amp actually. It's the layout's quite similar to the old Cornford Mark 52. So it's got two
Which
master
I
modules.
loved actually. That was a great amp. The guy I was telling you about on the Galga thing. He sent me a message last week. He's just switched to a Victory, and he says it's an absolute beast. And
What's he
he's
got?
had more gear than I've had hot dinners. He and I sort of like met trading like PRSs and stuff.
Mhm.
But he really loves this Victory that he's just got.
They are lovely amps.
Yeah,
Really nice. What have I got? I've got a Tone Master Twin that I used to use for the function stuff.
yeah,
But as I'm not doing that now, that's sort of laying unused a little bit. And my my gear bargain of the last 10 years, I think, is I've got an EVH 50 watt 6L6,
all right, okay,
a matching head and cab, which I bought in cash converters
right.
for 450 quid for the pair.
Wow. Yeah.
It was
Their cabs
astonishing.
are incredibly light, aren't they? The ones I picked up, I couldn't believe how light they were for, like for the power rating and stuff.
It's a lovely little thing.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favourite rock amps that I've ever had.
Yeah.
The top one I used to be the Super Kraken, the Victory Super Kraken.
Right.
Used to really like that, but I think the EVH might have knocked it off the top spot. I love this amp. It's really nice.
Mm. So when I was speaking to Mark Day, obviously you could argue that he's got a vested interest, but he said it with conviction. And a guy called Aggie that's in a glam rock band that I've known for a long time. I asked him the same question, and I'll ask you, and I think you may have, for a change, a different answer.
He's putting the pressure on now. What is it? Go on then.
Are valve amps dead? Are they a thing of the past?
I think you're right. I think I might have a different answer, but it might be. I don't think they're dead. I don't think they're dead. I think there is. I think there's a place for them in a studio. But I do think that the days are numbered with regards to gigging guitarists. I, I just can't see with the price of valves going up because that's been a big thing recently.
Yeah.
You know, you look at what a set of EL34s is going to set you back now compared to 2 or 3 years ago. You think if that trend carries on going the way it is,
That's why my Ignator Rebel 30 went, because that used 2 different sets of valves.
they cost a fortune. Like this, I mean, this EVH, I love it, but it's got something ridiculous, like 7 preamp valves or something, and
My goodness.
it's a lot of gain,
Yeah.
but it's ridiculous. And I'm just thinking, you know, if you're the kind of guy who's doing the semi-pro thing, let's say you're doing a few pub gigs a month or something like that, you know, you've got your band, you do your rehearsal and that kind of thing. Why are you going to want to maintain a valve amp?
Yeah.
You know,
And
when
it's
you've got
reliability as well.
yeah, portability. You know, you got something like a Kemper, which yeah, okay, it doesn't sound exactly or doesn't feel exactly like a valve amp, but it's damn close.
Yeah.
Like I say, I gigged the Queen thing with the Helix, and yeah, it doesn't sound like Brian May's wall of AC30s, but
It's
I
not
don't want
far
a
off.
wall of AC30s. I don't want to carry
You
that
know
around.
I remember it's got to be 18 years ago. I seen a 3-piece MIDI band, for want of a better term, with a guy who is a drummer called Tony Grant, who sounds phenomenally like Freddie Mercury and
Mhm,
looks like him. And he was in a band called The Directors.
mhm.
And it was him, a keyboard player that did the MIDI files for them. And they had a guitarist. And he had the best, closest Brian May sound I have ever heard. And he had it right for every song. And you know what he used? He used a Hohner headless guitar. Seriously. And he had one of those first Zoom strap-on effects units. And I just sat there, jaw dropped, gobsmacked. I just could not believe the wall of sound that he was getting. It was, it was, it was one of those sort of like moments I'll never forget, because he even back then he was budget style gear, and you could see from his playing there was no fakery involved. He was doing everything, yet he had all the harmonies down, all the layered parts. He was just, I mean, he was a great player, but that's the closest I've ever seen. And I've seen a number of tribute bands now. Obviously, I haven't seen yours yet.
No, no, there is footage. We did a gig at the weekend which got filmed, so it may emerge at some point. I might have to put that on the YouTube channel and
So tell us about your YouTube channel then, DG
YouTube
Sessions.
channel. Yeah, it's. I guess it's just a little bit of a hobby for me. Like, I think I started doing it properly during COVID when gigs weren't a thing and just sort of wanting that audience, I guess.
Yeah.
I think there's something kind of innate about performers that we want to be performing, and the fact that we couldn't, it sort of led me to go, you know what, I'll try this YouTube thing. So I started doing it then, just doing a few videos here and there. I've tried a few different ideas and formats. Like I've done a couple of sort of teaching licks. I've done some covers on there. I've done some teaching, some gear stuff, and it's all just a bit of a mix and match.
Mm.
But when I started doing the Queen thing, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try and properly document this, because I'm having to get all the sounds down for the gigs. I'm having to learn the songs, so why don't I
It's
just
like a Queen Brian May going back years and years. Website that's just talking about how to emulate the Brian May sound, you know, right the way back from the early processors that he used. And
I've been down
I
that
bet.
rabbit hole, and there's a lot of people out there, and even just down to building the red specials and stuff. Like anyone who's sort of into the Brian May thing will look at that and tell me all the things that are wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like it looks about right when you're from a
I
distance.
think
but
that forum was the reason I bought an IntelliFX, and I was heartbroken by the time I bought it. He moved on to a red version.
I mean, if you want to sound like Brian May, the key thing is just an AC30 and a treble booster.
Yeah.
Like that's 90% of the sound, and the other 10% is basically a chorus.
Yeah.
You're like, if you're
Yeah.
using that, you're going to be pretty close.
There is a guy on YouTube and I can't remember. I couldn't tell you his name. He's I think he's a Spanish guy, and he does everybody. He's part of he does a lot of videos on the Hughes and Kettner forums and stuff.
Hmm.
And he manages to copy everybody's sounds perfectly. I mean, the guy's like you, he's a monstrous player and stuff. But one of the things he advocates is that he puts a chorus on just for the spread to get the sound bigger, even when there's no chorus on it.
That's a bit of a Lukather trick. You mentioned Steve Lukather earlier, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
Lukather likes that kind of thing.
yeah.
He's a big sort of use
Luke's
it to
got
get.
basically got two delay settings, a short one which he has on like most of the time, and then he's got one that he layers on top of that for the solos and stuff. And I think that he's got the say I've got the hardwire. I think hardwires are still to this day are fantastic pedals. I've got
They
the
were
hardwire
always really
chorus
good.
as well. And that's good. The one that I really would like is the hardwire reverb, which is a Lexicon chip.
Mhm.
I still like that. But the weight of the pedals is getting on a little bit more on the board as well now. So I've got too old.
So when you start thinking,
Yeah.
got all these pedals, oh, I need to look at a multi effects now.
Yeah, that's I'm pining for the Helix. And I think that I'll probably end up with a Helix LT. Uh,
They are good.
and
I'm not smart enough to use the LT. I like having the little scribble strips on the top
right.
because when I program stuff, I try and get all fancy with it, and then I forget what all the buttons do. Give it 3 weeks after I programmed it. I'm looking down and going, well, I know one of these buttons does it, but which one is it?
Yeah, I
And
think
having
with
the
the
little
Helix,
labels on
a
them, I
lot
do
of my
like them.
favorite players on YouTube use them. Like I like John Coe on John is Too Loud,
Hmm.
and I like Vin IT, the Thai fella.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
and I think that he's he's such a great player. I've just done put up a couple of links actually to my favorite Shiji um, demos, and they're both actually Thai. One's Vin IT, and the other one's a lady guitarist that's in a Thai band that's owned by the Thai distributor. And I mean, she's a great player, fantastic feel.
Hmm.
And she does a Jack Thamarak cover, but she plays it better than he does. You know. Anyway, so
I like it.
what? So we'll wrap up shortly. What's the future for you, David? What's your intent? What's your ambitions?
You know what? I've always had the same answer to that question ever since I've started just playing guitar as a profession. I just want to carry on playing guitar.
Yeah,
Like I just want to carry on doing what I've always done, and just hoping that work comes through, and that people keep doing bits. Like, I'd love for the YouTube channel to grow a little bit. That would be nice.
yeah.
And it seems to be doing it. It seems to be going up a little bit here and there. So I think it's one of those things. If you do it slowly but surely, rather than trying to rush it, it ends up
Yeah,
happening
because you can
organically.
get I put a comment that I think some people found a bit bad the other day on the Shiji players page. That somebody for the six moderators on that, and they've never posted anything till one guy did the other day. He was asking a question rather than being, there's another guy called Kevin, and it seems to be him and I that answer everybody's questions.
Yes,
Kevin's a bigger
I've seen you
Shiji,
both. Yes.
yeah, and the moderators don't know anything that are on there. Although one of them obviously does because he's Lee Music, but
Mhm.
they put a post up congratulating people that the new members, which is always a nice thing. But
Yeah, definitely.
I looked at them, and two of them were spammers. They were posting for the t-shirts, and so I'm just about to make the Shiji UK like
Mhm.
a members only thing where you've got to answer a silly question to get into it.
Yeah, good idea.
I think it's probably the only way to do it.
Mhm. But then when you do finally get there, if you've grown it slowly, you end up with like a more loyal fan base, and an organic thing, rather than
Yeah.
if you start spamming and playing the algorithms and stuff. You get people that will subscribe, but then 6 weeks later they leave. And I've seen other guitar players grow their channels that way, and it just doesn't seem to last for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I tend to. I mean, I've got quite a lot of subscriptions between guitars and wrestling because wrestling's my other passion because that's what my dad was, a pro wrestler
fair enough.
and stuff. And I had to go out for a while before my knees went. And it was, I do like the YouTube thing.
Mhm.
And you've got potentially a really, really great channel there because you've got a nice way about you and you've got a
Thank you.
really nice style of playing. So DG Sessions is the name of
That's
David's
it.
channel.
At DG Sessions, yeah, all one word.
Yeah, and he's got some really great stuff up there, and he's very, very informative, and you can see the sort of easy, relaxed style that he has, and match that with the Demon Player, and I think you're gonna have a bit of success with it, mate.
Thank you. Fingers crossed. And best of luck with the Shiji stuff as well, because we need to see more of that over here in the UK.
Yeah, I think so. I think Greg, when he was doing it before, benefited from the pandemic massively by his own admission, but. Like I say, my wife comes and does the shows with me. My 7-year-old sits there at his computer. We enjoy doing them actually, and it's a chance to speak about the guitars. And I would say only a third of the people have heard of the brand that have come up in and talk about it.
They had a little bit of a sort of sputtering where
Yeah,
during the pandemic with the YouTube guys, they were sort of latched onto them a little bit. And then after that, it just sort
I
of.
think the previous sales guy called Mo Land, who was really going into business for himself way before he left, by setting up his Zenny brand and stuff,
Yeah.
and sort of like trying to encourage people that were ringing up for the Shiji to buy, a Zenny, or say, I'm by the way, I'm doing this. So I think that they're doing well. I mean, they moved factory earlier in the year, and so long as they maintain the quality of the output, and with Alex doing it and making sure that he signs off everyone as he does, I can't see it dropping because he is a workaholic and he is a perfectionist. So I can only see more good guitars coming through. What I don't buy is, oh, it's only a Fender copy. Why would you pay that much money for one? Because I think that people, I won't say people are ignorant, but they're certainly ill-advised that think that. I mean, I think even our classic series, it's not what I think. I gave a classic Telecaster to my friend last week that plays in the glam band, and he plays 2 Fender USA guitars. Fender, and he just said, "This is better than both of them," and it was.
It is.
And so I think the future is bright. It's getting the name out there. I did a really nice order last night for a guy who wants one of the Nitro finish ones. We took about 2 weeks in deciding on the spec, and like, could we do this? Could we do that with it? Like, he doesn't want a back cover on it, and he doesn't want the holes from that sort of
Fair
stuff.
enough.
Yeah. So
But that's one of the nice things about the brand, isn't it? Like they're happy to do stuff like that because it's not mass produced. It's not just churning them out. You place an order and the order goes through the factory.
Yeah, it's not a CNC machine with a belt sander on the end, and they're dropping off the end of the line like a lot of brands.
Yeah.
You get the CNC, it comes off, and then craftsmen take it away.
Yeah,
Every
exactly.
neck of Shiji, although they're all made within a tolerance, is different because they were done by a human. They were done by a human. They were finished by him. And when they order them, what they do is they actually go down and they match up. When they get an order for something, they'll pre-make the necks and the bodies before, and they'll go up and they'll find the best one to go with that all the time. And I think that the attention to what they actually do is they match up the best, and even to the point I almost destroyed a headstock on one because I wanted to take I wanted to change the machine heads on it just because I wanted locking ones, and it didn't come with them, and they're in so tight getting them out is a problem. And the only way that you can actually do it is to get a soldering iron and put it on the ferrule, and that to heat up the ferrule to get it out. And the lads at the factory told me that because everything is designed to go in so tightly, so it feels organic and it feels like it's one piece. There's no gaps anywhere or nothing. So yeah, I will have to edit some of the CG stuff out, David, I'm sure. But
I think people want to hear it. I mean, there's not enough out there about it, and people like hearing guitarists talk about good gear.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll do three final short answer questions. Favorite guitarist of all time?
Nick Johnston.
Really? Why?
I like listening to his stuff. Sounds like music and not just shred.
Okay.
I had a similar thing when I was younger, listening to sort of Satch and Vi, but then you got all the shrapnel shredders and that, and it's all just a nice synth thing, and then they play widdly stuff over the top. But when you listen to Nick Johnston's stuff, it's well composed. It's got the guitar technique and stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
But it's music first, and then the guitar stuff is a bonus in a way. And I love the way that he's approached stuff like Remarkably Human. It sounds like a film soundtrack. It's huge and amazing.
Best pedal ever made?
Pedal. Ooh, am I allowed to choose a multi effects or not? No, I'm gonna say a Tube Screamer. Most useful.
Was that because it was groundbreaking at the time, or
still the most useful?
Where would be
gain boost, volume boost? Most of the pedals on my board tend to be in some way related to either boosting volume or boosting gain, or just having different slight flavors.
Yeah,
and I just think the Tube Screamer is something that you can use in so many different ways. You can use it to get a sort of in between two channels kind of crunchy thing. You can use it as a boost to tighten up a gainy amp. You can use it as a solo boost. Just as a utility pedal, probably one of the most useful, I think.
Okay, final question. Best band that you've seen live? You can give me two answers here. Best cover band that you've ever seen live.
Okay.
And best band from the Rich and Famous.
Best band. Best band as a technically, or best performance?
Overall.
Overall. Take That. I saw Take That on the Circus tour at Wembley, and the amount of effort and the amount of work that went into that show, and to make it such an entertaining show,
was that the one? Was that the tour where they did the Nirvana stuff and what have you, and you all played instruments?
They did do a section where they played instruments. It was the one. So it wasn't the first album they came back with. It was the one where they were sort of just got really big.
Yeah.
So it was before Robbie joined back and all that kind of thing.
I the drummer I used to play with, his brother was their guitar teacher.
Amazing. But the whole show.
Yeah.
Like every single aspect
that's
of
the
it.
Famous band then. Actually, the best live show I've ever seen musically was Shania Twain.
She's a close second. Definitely.
I just couldn't believe how tight everything was. And she spent most of the time on her knees walking around the audience, shaking hands in a figure of eight stage.
I love the fact that she has proper musicians as well.
Yeah.
She's got a full, usually like a 5, 6, 7, 8-piece band.
Yeah.
I
think they were an 8-piece band that night. They were musically, they were just perfect and not boring either. I went to see Sting the week before, and I was bored. The only thing he did that was I appreciated all night was "Have I Ever Lost My Faith" and the Police stuff. So best cover band that you've ever seen, or is that too personal? You're going to say the Queen tribute?
No, I'm not actually. I don't think that's fair, really, in a way. Best cover band I've seen. I'm sort of going to go with a famous one in a way.
Right.
Steel Panther.
Satchel's such a good guitarist, isn't he?
Yeah, I saw them in Vegas,
Right.
and
That is cheating, though. I can't let you have that. Best club band you've seen.
okay, a proper cover band. You know what? I'm going to give a nod to the band I used to be in. They're an incredible band. They're called the Nana Radleys,
Right.
and they still play as the Nana Radleys, but they've got a couple of theatre shows that they do now. One's a Motown show and an 80s show.
Yeah.
And yeah, the level of musicianship in that band is absolutely incredible.
Right.
The bass player works as the MD, and he works really hard to chart a lot of the stuff. And having seen it from both sides, like
Yeah.
I've seen like the stuff since I've left, and I've seen them while I was obviously in it, and they've had other players and stuff while I was busy on gigs, and I've sort of seen them play, and they are really incredible.
Best live cover band I've seen. There's two, in different ways. One was called Altitude, and they were a pop cover band with a girl singer at the front. They used to go out and do. I remember going to Ollie's Bar in Manchester, which was run by the late Pete Oliver, who was in Sweet Chariot, and just about all the top cover bands in Manchester all turned up because it was a rare gig before they went off on tour on like a cruise, and they were just mind blowing. And then harmonies and stuff I also think are really important. And there used to be a band on the circuit called Green Gauge with a girl bass player and really great guitarist on an SG 2000, phenomenal keyboard player. None of them particularly were, I would say, the best players you've ever heard as a band. With the vocals that they had, they were stunning. That's it for me, David. Anything else that you'd like to add apart from go over to DG sessions?
Off the DG sessions, yeah. And you're gonna have a video clip as well. I'm gonna send you a clip of some playing and stuff, so people are gonna be able to see that as well if they want to know why they should listen to me and what I'm talking about. If I make their own decision whether I know what I'm talking about or not, so they can have a look at that. And yeah, best of luck for the Shiji stuff and the follow-up videos and things like that. And
I have noticed I'm having a bad eye day as well. This one.
Oh dear, I can't see it on the screen. So
really, yeah, I can.
Noticed it.
I'm paranoid about it since I noticed it. I'll cut this off about 20 years ago when I was doing a presentation for a company that I worked for, and it was all videoed. And I thought, oh my God, I've got one eye that closes, and I have good days and bad days with it. And today's definitely a bad day.
No, I hadn't noticed at all. You'd have got away with that if you hadn't mentioned it.
Well, I won't do on the edit.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, okay, right. David, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go and get ready to get my son from school and talk to a couple of clients and stuff.
Marvelous.
Okay, thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this.
No worries.
Much appreciated.
No worries.